Shuri. So I think what was interesting for me in Shuri becoming the new Black Panther was the fact that when it comes down to it, in storytelling, you know, it was a great twist in the end of the movie, but it was something that was obviously, if you really like were paying attention, when you watch it in hindsight, when you watch the movie again, you realize, oh, they were building this story all along. So the opening scene even starts off with Shuri, and she's trying to save her brother's life. So they don't even focus on the brother dying, nothing like that. She's trying to save her brother's life, you know, and it's this device that we use in storytelling called the unfair injury. And so Shuri, you know, she first loses her brother in the beginning of the story, and she's completely pained by this. So this is an unfair injury that they really focus in on. These are like just the little hints that they were telling us that she was going to be the new Black Panther. So she loses her brother. This is obviously a devastating thing for her, especially the fact that she did everything in her power to save him. She's supposed to be the smartest person. She has the best tools in the most technologically advanced country, and she can't save her brother. To her, that's devastating. And to us, the viewer, to seeing how much it impacted her, well, that already makes us sympathize with her. So it's a device that they use. Then in addition to that, we see the fact that even though her mother lost her son, it's Shuri that's more affected by the loss of her brother. Now, by all accounts, I don't think that's realistic. Of course, it can happen, but in real life, think about it. They say the worst thing that can ever happen to any mother is to lose a son. And throughout this story, it's the mother that's consoling her daughter. We don't really see Angela Bassett's character in the depths of pain of losing her son. That's like the worst thing that can happen to any mother. We don't see her, you know, in that much pain, but we see Shuri in that pain. So that was another obvious indicator that, well, the person that really lost out in losing T'Challa was Shuri. The person that's really pained by it was her, even more so than even her mother. These are just little hints that they were showing us that she is the new Black Panther. She's the protagonist of this story. Another hint that they were giving us is her being uniquely talented and skilled. Now, not only when she becomes the Black Panther does she have all these superpowers, which is great, and T'Challa had that, great, but more specifically, she is intelligent, she's skilled, she's a scientist. She has very unique scientific abilities that we don't even see in most other Marvel characters. So this was another thing that made her, you know, these are the little hints that they were giving, that were making us fall for her. Because when you think about it, if they had come out and said, there's going to be a new Black Panther, nobody would have accepted that. She's going to be the new Black Panther. Nobody would have accepted that. So the way that they manipulated us into falling for her as audience members, falling for her character, and then accepting her as the new Black Panther, that's kind of the tactic that they were doing there, in showing us these little things in the storytelling that gave us this attachment to her character. These are little tricks that they do for protagonists to win us over to supporting the protagonist. Then this other element of her character is her swagger. Now, so even just in this scene, especially when they were waiting out of this outfit she's wearing, everything, she's just so swag. And even though, you know, she's not traditionally pretty in a Eurocentric way, even though, yes, she does have she's thin, has a model-esque body. She has, the hairstyle is giving very Whitney Houston in the 80s. It's giving a little, you know, not completely, but it's giving that swagger. But she's also tapping into the natural hair movement and African natural beauty and all of that swagger. So I think just in her, maybe she's not necessarily traditionally pretty from a Eurocentric appeal, but from an African appeal, she is beautiful, and she has a universally celebrated body. So they were highlighting all these things, and then they gave her a unique sense, like a dress sense that was just swaggered out. These are things that made us think, oh, she's cool, I like her. Because that's what they do in protagonists. They're attractive, physically attractive, typically. And so she had the swagger. She had everything. The haircut was so swag, very futuristic, swaggy look. that just made all of us sort of like, well, at least me and a lot of viewers would think subconsciously, it's kind of winning us over to supporting her as a protagonist. Then when we think about the character Namor and them having parallels in their stories. So with Shuri, she had the unfair injury of losing literally every single person in her family, not just her brother, not just her father, but her mother. She's alone in this world. And Namor has very interesting, unique, a very similar dynamic, losing his mother and losing everybody himself and being alone for, hundreds of years. Those are the similarities between them, and those are the parallels, but the difference is who she becomes in this story. So we see her in the beginning, and that's her character journey, her character arc. Her unfair injury or her core wound is the loss of, this is things in storytelling, her core wound is the loss of her family, her entire family. She's losing one person at a time, and it's eating at her and making her more vengeful as she gets, as she moves along. And we see her when she becomes the Black Panther and she takes the potion and goes to meet her ancestors. She doesn't meet her brother. She doesn't meet her father. She doesn't even meet her mother, but she meets her cousin Killmonger, who is a villain. And that's that inner conflict and inner story arc of her core wound. Is she going to become a villain and seek revenge? Is she going to seek a vengeance, or is she going to be healed? Is she going to be like her ancestors, her mom, her brother, her dad, what they've taught her? And that's her inner story arc. And obviously when we watch the movie, we see that she overcomes it. Sorry. Hey, spoiler alert. She overcomes it and she turns out to be her brother's sister. That was the key story arc in the whole film. That she actually, despite losing everybody in her family, despite technically being an orphan, she overcomes that and does not seek revenge, but seeks healing and seeks to amend things or to be, generous. And then in the end, of course, she meets her only other family member, her nephew, her brother's son, which kind of gives her this sense of family with Lupita's character, Lupita's son, and she regains this sense of family. So that's an interesting story arc also. Another thing is, of course, her becoming the crown princess, then becoming the queen. Well, they hadn't crowned her queen yet, but it's clear that she's probably going to be queen, or who knows, maybe her nephew's going to be king, who knows. But she is the Black Panther, and getting the respect of everybody else in the kingdom. That too is another challenge. Maybe they will explore in another movie, but it was clear. What's his name? In I can't remember his name. Anyway, the big guy, him. When you think about that character too, it was interesting because in Dapo or whatever, I can't remember his name. This guy, his character too is interesting because, you would expect him to be the toxic masculine guy that would take over her throne or something. But instead, she had built this interesting relationship dynamic with him and gained his respect. This is somebody that in the story we know is very prideful, very strong. Even, he and T'Challa even had challenges together also. So that's an interesting thing also.